Ocho sampo pagyo trashi pa tuche tempe tine yarnoda pelge drolor zambe zeparach solvade Omo a guru vajra dara sumatimo nishasane kar Uta vardanya shri bar varsa manya sarva siddhi hum Om guru vajra dara sumatimo nishasane kar Uta vardanya shri bar varsa manya sarva siddhi hum Om guru vajra dara Sumatimo nishasane kar Uta vardanya shri bar Varsa manya sarva siddhi Om Hakyuke akudam dagi Lo pakyuke sundandagi ngam pakyuke tudandagi yeteyerme jingelo Hakyuke kuda dhagilo Hakyuke sunda dagina Hakyuke tu dagi Teyerme chiktu Chingelo Makyuke kudam Dagilo Makyuke Makyuke tudam Dagi Teyerme chiktu chingelo Mahamuni Shakyamuni Swaha Om Muni Muni Mahamuni Shakyamuni Swaha Om Muni Muni Mahamuni Shakyamuni Swaha Ange Shodan Soge Chonam La Chancho Pardo Dani Kyapsuch Dagi Jinso Gibe Sonam Gin Drola Pinchra Sangye Drupa chushe gibe sonamgi trola penchira sangye drupare sangye chodan sogi chonamla chancho pardo dani kapsu dagi chushe gibe sonamgi trola penchira sangye drupare. In the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, I take refuge unto enlightenment, to the practice of generosity and the other perfection. May I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. In the practice of self-healing, there is the first part of the practice normally, which is somehow the end of the preliminary practices, which is the part in which we request the blessings before starting with the actual generation stage. So the practice of self-healing, we could divide it into three parts, which are the preliminary practices, the main practice, and the conclusion. So the preliminary practice, it goes up to the moment when we do the purification. That's still part of the preliminary practice. And then the absolute purification is like in between the main, actually it's already inside the main practice, but it's like in between the preliminaries and then starting the actual main practice, the part of the generation stage. So, normally, when we do the practice, if we are able to do the whole preliminary practice complete, is the best way. We can do it, or as we did this morning, by using the Guru Puja, or we can do it by doing the normal short prayers that we do when we do the normal preliminary practices. Okay? The very short version, the way how we can do, is actually if we start directly with the prayers of, as we have in the booklet here, no? If we go directly to Lojo Samvapagita Shipa, actually within this, there is the taking of refuge and generation, the bodhicitta. Everything is not written, but is implied in our motivation as we do it. Okay? So if we start directly from here, we have in page number 4, no? And page number 4 and 5 is the moment in which we request the blessings. Actually, in this moment, as we request the blessings, we are also taking refuge. And as we do the practice in order to reach enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings, we're also generating the bodhicitta at the same time. Okay? So in case we start directly with Locha Sampo without doing all the part of the preliminaries before, it's the very condensed version. Of all sadhanas, there is normally a long version, a middle version, a condensed version, a very condensed version. So that's normal to have. So here, we do, in page number 4, actually, this is the part in which it's called requesting the blessings of the lineage. Okay? Every sadhana, whenever we do every sadhana, in the beginning of the sadhana, there's the part in which we request the blessings of the lineage. Like in the Yamantaka sadhana, we start with Kabda, Jambe, Dorje, Shinje, Shek, Yawa, Kunga, Jason, Tongapa, Yasek, Yubar, Chebat, Sowa, Desong, Odronam, so and like this we go on. So we have always like, the beginning is like when we recite the name of the masters, starting from the very beginning, where the lineage started, so Buddha Shakyamuni or Vajradhara, it depends where is the beginning of the lineage. And then we go down, saying the name of each master and requesting their blessings, up to our own root guru. Okay? So, when we do the requesting of the prayers of the lineage, there is two ways of doing it. There is one way which is according to the long lineage, Ringyu, and according to the short lineage, Nyingyu, or the near lineage, Nyingyu. The Nyingyu, the difference is that the long lineage, for example, in the practice of self-healing, it goes from Lama Gangchen Rinpoche to his guru Trichan Rinpoche, to his guru Papunka Rinpoche, to his guru Tabu Dorje Chang, or so on. Like, then we could go on and on until we reach Lama Tsongkhapa. From Lama Tsongkhapa we go on, and then we will go until we go to Nagarjuna Atisha. Then from Nagarjuna we go after to Nagarjuna, Astanga, and then after that until we go to Buddha Shakyamuni himself. Okay? This is the so-called long lineage. Then the short lineage is from the moment where this practice was originally created. Like, where did Lama Gangchen? In this case, we are in a very special moment because we are in the beginning of a short lineage. Like, this practice, as we explained yesterday, was created based on a direct vision and experience that Rinpoche received. And this is where the short lineage starts. Now, making one other example of a short lineage, there is the practice of Tara Chittamani. The practice of Tara Chittamani, the sadhana that we do nowadays, normally the most well-known sadhana was written by Trichan Rinpoche, but it was taught to him by his guru. It was taught to him by the guru Papunka Rinpoche. It was taught to him by Tabu Dorje Chang. And like this we go on the lineage. And then 3 reincarnations before of the Tabu Dorje Chang that transmitted to Papunka Rinpoche was also called Tabu Dorje Chang. And he was doing a retreat on Tara. And then he had the vision of Tara, and he had the vision of the practice of Tara Chittamani, which basically is very similar to self-healing. The practice of Tara Chittamani is there is one Tara at each one of the 5 chakras with the same color as the 5 Dhyani Buddhas. And then around there are all the little Taras according to the same number of petals that we have in self-healing. So we have 32 white taras in the crown, 16 red taras in the throat, 8 blue taras in the heart, 64 yellow taras in the navel, and 32 green taras in the secret chakra. And the whole practice is extremely similar, like self-healing. And this practice was taught by Tabu Dorje Chang based on a direct experience that he had, a vision that he had, similar to self-healing. And so when we look, for example, in the practice of Tara Chittamani, what is the near lineage? From Tara to Tabu Dorje Chang, and from Tabu Dorje Chang it starts. Then there's the long lineage also. So in the practice of self-healing, we have a short lineage, which basically is from Borobudur to Lama Gangchen Rinpoche, and to us. Okay? So when we make the prayer request, in the future, it will be from Borobudur to Lama Gangchen Rinpoche, from Lama Gangchen Rinpoche to whoever else, and then like this will go until the practitioner's own guru. Okay? So normally, now we do one prayer because actually we are directly connected to the first one of the line. Okay? So this is one way, something quite special. But when we do here this first prayer, Locho Sambopa Gyutra Shipa, this is when we make the requests of the lineage blessing. And we do the difference like from other practices, because normally you have a long prayer for requesting the blessings of the lineage, is because the near lineage is coming directly from Borobudur to Lama Gangchen and then to us. Okay? Then we can also make the prayers of the long lineage. In the self-healing number 2, there are some prayers of the longer lineages of prayer requests of the long lineage. So normally we do the short lineage prayer. And we can also do, even in other practices, we just do mainly the prayer of our own root guru, and we remember within him we are receiving the whole long lineage. So we connect the whole lineage by making the prayer of our own root guru, which is our own connection. Okay? So this moment is like requesting the permits, requesting the permission to do the practice. So we visualize in front of us our Guru, and then as we do the mantra Oma Guru Vajradhara Sumati Muni Shastanya Karma Uta Vardanya Shribhadra Vartamanya Sarvasiddhi Hum. We visualize white, red, and blue light coming from his crown, throat, and heart, and absorbing at our crown, throat, and at our heart. Okay? The meaning of this prayer as we do it, actually the prayer and the mantra has a very similar meaning, because Tibetan is a particular language, and the words are all composed by 2 syllables, so it's possible to make, how to say, poetry, or to play a little bit with the words somehow. So if we look here, and if we take the booklet, Lama Gangchen's name is Lobsan Tupten Chinle Yarpel. Okay? So let's find the name on the prayer. Okay? If you look, the first Lo, okay? Lo, and then you have Sang, Lo Chok Sang, Lo Sang. Okay? That's from Lo Sang. Lo Sang. And then on the first line is also Lama Gangchen's past life name, which is Sangpo, and then you have Tashi, Sampo Tashi. Okay? If you look on the first line, you have Lochok, Sampo, Palgyu, Tashi, Pa. On that line, you have both Lo Sang, which is this life first name, and then Lama Gangchen's previous life also, which is Sampo Tashi. So you have Sangpo, and then in the end of the line, you have Tashi. Okay? So it's showing both his previous life and this life also. So you have Lo Sang. In the next line, you have Tup, Tupchen Tempe, Tup Ten, Chinle, Lo Sang, Tup Ten, Chinle, Yar. Then in the third line, you have the Pel, Yar Pel, which is Lama Gangchen's name. Lo Sang, Tup Ten, Chinle, Yar Pel. Okay? So his name is here. So basically, that's why we call the name prayer request. We make the request of the blessings through the name of the Guru. So all the prayers that are written, basically the most important things like the name should be inside. Or when we do the prayers of Sri Rinpoche, Losang Gyawa Kungi Yesheni Chikutime Gyalten Zimbetora, Jankin Gorka Tuduguntin, Chenlame Shabla Swadip. Also, his name is also inside that prayer. Okay? Then when we do the mantra, Om A. If you see, many mantras have Om A in the beginning and Hum in the end. Okay? Om A Hum is the essence of all mantras. Om A Hum, it represents the pure body, speech, and mind. So that's why also when we did today, during the preliminaries, in the end, we did the mantras of all the gurus of the lineage, and we end with Om A Hum. Because Om A Hum is the essence of all mantras, is the essence. Then if you combine Om A Hum, it can combine it Om. But normally Om A Hum is like the essence of all mantras. Rinpoche said that one time he met one yogi, one great practitioner, and his practice was only Om A Hum. No other mantras, he was just practicing Om A Hum. So Om A Hum is really like the essence of all mantras, the essence of all Buddhas is within Om A Hum, symbolizing pure body, pure speech, and pure mind. So very often you have Om A in the beginning and Hum in the end. Guru means the Guru, okay, our Lama Guru, the one that guides us on the path to enlightenment. Vajradhara means the Guru that is inseparable from Buddha. Vajradhara is the way how Buddha manifests himself on the Vajrayana path, on the teachings of Vajrayana Buddhism. Vajra means diamond. Dhara means holder. So diamond also means something that is indivisible, non-dual, that you cannot divide. Dhara means holder, the holder of the indivisible, of the non-dual. So what is the indivisible here? It's the great bliss and emptiness. So it's the holder of great bliss and emptiness, the holder of the non-dual state of great bliss and emptiness, which means the holder of enlightenment. Okay? This is what Vajradhara is meaning. So it means Om A Guru, Guru or my own Guru that is inseparable of all the Buddhas, Vajradhara. Sumati means Lobsang, which means actually pure mind. Sumati. Muni, Tup. Tupten, Lobsang, Tupten. Muni means capable one. Okay? Shasane. Lobsang, Tupten. Shasane means the Tempa, which means like the teachings of. So Muni Shasane in Tibetan is Tupten. So Lobsang, Sumati, Muni, Lobsang, Tupten in Tibetan. Tup means the capable, Ten means the teachings, so the teachings of the capable one, which basically means the teachings of Buddha. In Sanskrit it said Muni Shasane. Karma Utta Vardanye. Karma Utta Vardanye in Tibetan is the Trinle Yarpel. Trinle means karma, which means action, which means holy action, pure action, enlightened action. Trinle, karma. Yarpel means that increases, that grows, that increases the pure action. So, Utta Vardanye means the increasing. Okay? So basically, Sumati Muni Shasane Karma Utta Vardanye means the name of Lama Gangchen. Actually, Gangchen is not his real name. In the sense, the actual name of Rinpoche is Lobsang Tupten Chinle Yarpel. But in Tibet, it's very normally the lamas are known for the name of the place that they are the lamas of. Like Gangchen is not the place where they are born. It's like normally each town, each little village, each area have one lama responsible for that area. And normally they are known for the name of that area. Let's say here we are, which is the name of the area we are now? Dissen, is that correct? Dissen. So let's say if there was one lama of here, this Dissen, they will say Lama Dissen. So that's how basically Gangchen is the name of a place. Okay? And like this, we have many, many lamas that have the name of the places where they come from. And this was like very few people used to know the actual name of the lamas. They will be all called by the name of the places where they were responsible from, not where they were born, but where they were responsible from this area somehow. So, Gangchen, which means Himalaya, finally is the name of Lama Gangchen. We know him by this name, which is also, it became his name, but originally is the name of the area where he comes from, where he's responsible for his monastery and everything else. But his actual name is Lobsang Tupten Chinle Yarpel. Okay? So, Lobsang Tupten Chinle Yarpel in Sanskrit is Sumati Muni Shasane Karma Utta Vardanye. Shri in Tibetan is Pel, which means excellent. Bhadra means pure, excellent, pure. Varsamanya Sarva Siddhi Hum Hum. Your excellent, pure one, please bless me, so please bestow upon me all the realization. Sarva means all, Siddhi means realization. I have some doubt now what Varsamanya actually means. But the meaning together is, please grant me all the realizations. Okay? Hum also represents the enlightened mind. So basically, we would say, Om A, pure body and speech, O Guru Buddha, Lobsang Tupten Chinle Yarpel, please grant me all the realizations of the enlightened mind. It's like one of the meanings how we can read this mantra. And then when we do the mantra of Sri Rinpoche, and then we do Om Guru Vajradhara, Sumati Gyana Shasana Dara Samudra Shribara Sarva Siddhi Hum Hum. His name was Lobsang Yeshe. Sumati Gyana. Gyana means Yeshe, Sumati means Lobsang. Okay? So, similar to that, Lama Tsongkhapa mantra. Om Guru Vajradhara Sumati Kirti. Kirti means Chakpa, famous. Sumati means Lobsang, same. That's why all the mantras start the same way, because they all have the similar name, always starting with Lobsang. That's why, because it's coming from the same lineage, same family, spiritual family. That's why Oma Guru Vajradhara Stumati Kirti Siddhi Hum, Lostan Chakpa, Stumati Kirti, Lopstan Yeshe, Stumati Gyana, Lopstan Tupten, Stumati Muni Stumati Muni Shasane, and like this we go on. So each mantra is the name of the Guru, adding this to give me your blessings. Then in the mantra of Rinpoche, like we can add in actually any mantra Shri Bhadra. Shri Bhadra means excellent, pure. It's a way of respect mostly. Okay. So this is when we do this. It's basically we are requesting the blessings of the lineage. So in this moment we are connecting to our Guru, to the Gurus of our Guru, and to the whole near and far away lineage. Okay? Because our near lineage of the practice of self-healing starts at Borobudur. That's one of the reasons why also Rinpoche says for all his disciples, said one commitment. At least once in a lifetime you need to go to Borobudur. And I think this is actually very good for everyone. If anyone has not yet been there, please, I think it's something good to be done at least once. It really helps, especially if we are practicing self-healing, it makes a big difference. I had many people saying to me, oh, self-healing before Borobudur and after Borobudur was completely different. The experience of the practice itself. So I think this is something very positive if you can do. Okay? So this part of the practice is where we are actually requesting the blessings of the lineage. Right after that, we go into the part in which we are doing the practice of Guru Yoga. Okay? I'm not going to go into many details right now, also because we need to do the practice together slowly. But basically, the practice of Guru Yoga is where we do the practice to become one and inseparable with the Guru. Okay? So we are requesting his blessings, and then we are visualizing that we are becoming one and inseparable together with Guru Buddha. This is the main meaning of what we are doing. And it's also like getting more near, getting more acquainted to each other. So basically, as we do Om Guru Buddha Siddhi Hum, again, Om Ahum, and Guru Buddha in the middle. Om Ahum, body, speech, and mind. Guru is the Guru. Buddha is Buddha, basically. So Guru that is inseparable of all the Buddhas. Siddhi means realization. So, Guru Buddha, please grant me the realizations. When we ask to grant the realization, it doesn't mean that Guru Buddha can come and put realizations inside of us. It means, please bless me so I may be able to realize my own qualities, such as love and compassion and wisdom and so on. Okay? Otherwise, it looks like there we are asking for Guru Buddha to do something for us without us needing to put our effort. It's not in that way. Okay? So, as we do this part of the practice, the mudras that we do, they help us for our own visualization also. So, when we do the first mudra, which is called the Garuda mudra, no? When you do Oma Guru Vajradhara Sumati Munisha Sane Karma Uta Vardhani Shibada Varsamanya Sarva Siddhi. It's called the mudra of the Garuda. The Garuda is this mythical bird that is actually representing, that is the king of all birds. And it is said that when the Garuda is born, at the moment that the eggshell is broken, he already knows how to fly. So he gets out already flying right away. So this is representing the fact of us, in the moment that our own eggshell should be broken, which is this body, we should be ready to fly right away to enlightenment. This means representing the fact of using the moment of death as the best opportunity for our own enlightenment also. So this is one of the meanings of this mudra. Okay? And we do the mudra at the chakra, which is actually helping us for the own visualization. When we visualize the white light coming from the crown and absorbing in our crown, the white light coming from the throat and absorbing at our throat, the red light, the blue light coming from the heart and absorbing at our heart. So it helps us for our own visualization also. The same thing is after when we do Om Guru Buddha Siddhi Hum, we join our hands in each one of the chakras. No? If we do 5 times, we do 5 times at each one of the chakras. And this is helping us to also for the visualization. As we visualize the lights coming directly to each one of the chakras, like white light from the crown chakra to our crown chakra, red light from the throat to our throat, blue from heart to heart, yellow from navel to navel, green from the sacral to the sacral chakra. So in this way, as we do the mudra, it helps us for the visualization also. Okay? Some people may think, oh, but it's a little bit strange to have so many mudras. Normally in the practices we don't have so many mudras. This is just because it's very strange, it's very interesting more than strange. What we don't know, we think is strange. We think is normal what we actually know. But if we look in our tradition, there are so many practices with so many mudras. Like, just take like the practice that I know that has much more mudras and they are much more funny and strange than self-healing. It's the practice of Kunrik, for example. Kunrik, which is Vajrayana Sarva B. It has like, minimum is 108 mudras, plus the mudras of the protection wheel, plus the mudras of the offerings. It makes, I don't know, 120 at least. And there are some very funny mudras, like there's mudra doing like this. Then there's the mudra of the guitar, mudra of the dancing, And there are so many mudras inside of it, actually. It's a very beautiful practice, which is based on the 5 Dhyani Buddhas also. And this practice, for example, if you don't do the mudras, the practice is not complete. So in order to do, you must know the mudras. I studied this because I had the commitment to do the retreat at some point. Because I received the initiation and I had the commitment to do the retreat. But you cannot do the retreat if you don't do the practice correctly. And to do the practice correctly, you must know all the mudras. So when I was in Tibet, and this is a practice that in the West, almost no one really know this practice so well. So in Tibet, in Tashilhunpo, they still do the practice very well. So I asked them, one of my teachers there, to give me the transmission. I asked really was, I said, can I make the video of all the mudras? So after, when I need, and he said, I said, please teach me, and then after I want to make a video. He said, yes, I teach you. You can make the video, but first you need to give me the examination that you know all the mudras by heart. Then you can make the video. I said, okay. I said, fine. So he went there, and then basically I learned all the mudras, and I gave him all the examination. Then after that I make the video, which was very lucky for me because I already forgot the mudras. For some time they were all there, but now after maybe few years, I never do them. Somehow you forget it, no? Not somehow, very clearly I forget them. But luckily, because once you already learn, after it's more easy to remember, and then there's the transmission there. But this just to say, there are practices with so many mudras. And even the practice of Kunrik basically is the 5 Dhyani Buddhas. Then we go to the practice of Guya Samaja. Not many mudras there, but what it is? It's the 5 Dhyani Buddhas. Hiruka is the 5 Dhyani Buddhas. Yamantaka is the 5 Dhyani Buddhas. Like any practice we go basically are the 5 Dhyani Buddhas. But the mudras actually are very powerful too, because our body language says a lot to ourselves. No? There is one very simple exercise that one time my mom showed it to me, and it is, for me, I felt it quite interesting. I don't never know how to say this in English. When you need to put the 2 fingers together, make all the strength you have and try to open it to check how much strength you have. I don't remember the name of that now. But anyhow, it's better if someone is helping us. We keep the 2 fingers with all the strength we have, then someone else try to open them, okay? And then we check how much strength we have. Then after that, we visualize 2 lines making a cross in front of us, like an X. Then we see how much strength we have while we visualize that. Then we visualize the 2 lines parallel, one to the other. And then we see how much strength we have. I'm not going to say the result now, otherwise you will think that you were influenced by my explanation. The fact is that whenever there is coherence in the mind, we have more strength in the body. So for example, if you do this exercise while lying, you have less strength. Whereas saying the truth, you have more strength. This is one point. But the other point is that whenever we do something that joins the right and the left brain together, we have more strength. If we do something that separates, we have less strength. And when we do self-healing, one of the most important points is creating balance between our male and female energy, between the part of, we can call it in many names, yin and yang, male and female, attraction and aversion, method and wisdom. We can call it in many ways. But basically, whenever we join our hands together, the simple mudra of putting the two hands together is actually one of the most important mudras of all. It represents the union of method and wisdom, the union of great bliss and emptiness. It represents the whole path to enlightenment whenever we put our hands together. The right hand represents method, which means love and compassion. The left hand represents wisdom, the correct view of reality. So, which is method, which is also great bliss, and wisdom, which is the realization of emptiness. Male energy, female energy. And when we unite both of them together, it means the union of great bliss and emptiness, the union of method and wisdom, the perfect balancing between the male and female energy. So the state of perfect harmony. So whenever when we unite our hands together, it has a very important meaning. And it's said to be the most powerful mudra. So it's actually something that we use so much. You know? Like in Asia, everywhere, when people greet each other, they always put the hand together. Normally we call it, it's like the praying mudra, we may say. It's like the gesture of prayer. But actually, within all the mudras, it's said to be the most powerful one, the most important mudra of putting the two hands together. So whenever we do the mudra that we join the two hands together, it also means like bringing harmony and centering ourselves, balancing the body and the mind as we put this together. The interesting thing of the gestures is that understanding its meaning or not understanding its meaning, they have effect. There is the first time that Rinpoche went to Brazil. I have the recordings of that. And then it was interesting because Rinpoche was talking about the power of mudra. And he was talking about two mudras at the time, which is something that in our culture is quite difficult to accept. But he was saying one is the mudra to make the nose to stop bleeding, which is we have the middle finger, then put together and make strength like this, the opposite direction. This is to make the nose stop bleeding. No? Just the middle finger put together, and then in the height of the heart, just push to the opposite direction, pull to the opposite direction. This is to stop the nose bleeding. And then there is the other mudra, which is the most funny one, which is taking on old shoes or any shoes, which is like one slipper mostly, and then fold it with the sole outside, okay, and put on the direction if there is any dogs or wolves that are, how do you call that? No, not barking, howling. If they are howling, and then put in their direction, and then they stop howling. I tried it many times and it always worked. One time I was even with friends, and we were in the late night doing the tattoo wall job in Italy until very late. And then one of my friends, like, he was very skeptical mind somehow. So, and then there's many dogs that were howling a lot. Sometime in Albania we have it. So I just took the shoes and I put like this. And he looked at me, what are you doing? And then they stopped. I said, you see, they stopped. Then after some time it happened again. Then they were howling, and then he looked at me and he said, try again, let's see. Then I took it, and then they stopped. And then we were walking back home. It was like around 3, 4 o'clock at night. And then I was like very near to the dogs, and there they were howling again. And then he looked at me and he said, like laughing, he said, oh, let's see if it's like really working. So I just took it again, and I did it. And it's like just at the first moment, just do it, and then they stopped, no? Then I was a little bit amazed myself. Like, it's quite interesting. Why it's working, how it's working, I have no idea. The fact that the experience was this, no? But the fact is that Rinpoche said that he used to do this when he was a young boy. His teacher taught him this in Gangchen Monastery, because they had many wolves around, and they would be doing this. So this is just one parenthesis, just like, this is what Rinpoche was talking about, the power of mudras. And actually gesture have a very strong power. Like, if we look at the mudras of the 5 Jnana Buddhas, no? This mudra. Can we do this gesture and at the same time think, I don't want to give? It's difficult, huh? The hands want to come back, no? Or we need to say, I want to share, I want to give, because that's actually what the gesture is bringing us. Okay? So on the other side, if we do other mudras, which is the mudra of stability, or when we do the purification, means I don't want, I put away. So basically, using the gesture, it has a very strong power of body language, of actually showing, showing us of guiding our mind, let's say, of directing our mind through the gestures of our body also. It is also, it's actually quite powerful in that way also. Okay? Then if there are other more subtle reasons for the mudras and subtle benefits for that, I really don't know precisely, but the fact is that in our tradition, in our lineage, there has always been the fact of doing the mudras, and it's always been something very sacred. It's not like each one just go there and invent their own mudras. It's something that, like a gesture that we're repeating in the same way how our teacher taught us, and like this it goes on from a long lineage. Like there are some parts in self-healing, like when we do the 5 elements, in one part of the mudra, why it's like this, like when we finish Om, Ahum, Tamasi, we stop for 1 instant before going up again. This is what we call in Tibetan Tongwa Gyube Chaglen, which is Tongwa Gyube Chaglen means like the tradition based on what you see from your masters. I don't know the exact reason for that, but I saw my guru doing like this, so I do in the same way. And we have things that's also like this. We just follow the way how our teachers were teaching us, and we go on. Some things we know the meaning, some things we don't know precisely the meaning, but we follow in the same way. So when we talk about mudras, it is actually quite precise. And because there is a direct connection between body and mind, also the body influences the mind. So the way how we do the movements and so on also influences the mind in this way. Okay? Is it possible to do the practice of self-healing without doing the mudras? Only visualization? It's possible also. No problem. But the mudras have a very special influence on us also. There is a very special reason for the mudras to be there. Okay? And as I said before, there are many, many different practices where there are many different mudras. It's not something specific of self-healing. Okay? But in which self-healing uses a lot. Now, so in the part where we do the practice of the Guru Yoga, we do Om Guru Buddha Siddhi Hum at each one of our 5 chakras, as we visualize the light and nectar coming, absorbing through our chakras. And as we imagine the light and nectar coming and absorbing through our chakras, we should imagine that it's not just light and nectar, but it's actually of the nature of the qualities of Guru Buddha. So it's pure body, pure speech, pure mind, pure qualities, pure action. It's of the nature of love, of compassion, of wisdom. And as we receive this, we feel more and more overwhelmed with a sensation of satisfaction and joy and peace as we receive it more. Okay? So now, we do this part of the practice together. We'll do the part in which we request the blessings of the lineage, and then after the part in which we do the actual Guru Yoga with Om Guru Buddha Siddhi. Okay? So we visualize in front of us Guru Buddha, as we did before the preliminary practices. Guru Buddha is still there in front of us, as the appearance as our Guru, inseparable of all Buddhas. In the 5 chakras of Guru Buddha are the 5 Dhyani Buddhas, representing his 5 aggregates in a pure state. We request the blessings of the lineage, requesting the permissions to do the practice of self-healing, and requesting the blessings to realize a pure state of body, speech, and mind. Locho sampo pa gyutra shipa tu che tempe tile yar onda el gedro lor zampete parcem pal de lame shabla solvade. Oma Guru Vajradara Sumati Muni Shasane Karma Utavardanye Shri Bhadra Varsamanya Sarva Siddhi Hum Hum Oma Guru Vajradara Sumati Shasane Karma Utavardanye Shri Bhadra Varsamanya Sarva Siddhi Hum Hum Oma Guru Vajradara Sumati Muni Shasane Karma Utavardanye Shri Bhadra Varsamanya Sarva Siddhi Hum Hum. Oma Guru Buddha Siddhi 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 Hum. Oma Siddhi Hum. Om Guru Buddha 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 Siddhi Hum. Om Siddhi Om Guru Buddha Siddhi Hum. 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 One way in which we can also do is that as we finish to do the practice or before also, we can do retreats on every part of self-healing. We will now do a little bit just to have some experience. So we did first the singing on each chakra, then by keeping the same visualization of Guru Buddha in front of us and the rays of light and nectar coming to every chakra, we just do the recitation of the mantra in silence as we visualize the same way as we receive the blessings of Guru Buddha. Okay? We will just do one time singing and then after we'll do the recitation in silence. Om Guru Buddha Siddhi Hum. 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 Om Guru Buddha Siddhi 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 Om Guru Buddha Om Guru Buddha Siddhi 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 Om Guru Buddha So, when we do retreat on self-healing, there are two ways of doing the retreat. One way is making the recitation starting from the very beginning, which means making retreat of the mantra of the Guru, then making retreat of the mantra of the part of Guru Yoga. So start with the retreat of the mantra Om Guru Pachadara Sumati Muni Shasane Karma Utavardhanya Sibara Varsamanya Sarva Siddhi Hum Hum. Then Om Guru Buddha Siddhi Hum. Then the purification of the elements. Then the absolute purification. Then the generation of the lotus with syllable and so on. Recite. Normally when we enter into the next part, it's like it will be 10,000 mantras for each chakra normally. So here will be like the Om Guru Buddha Siddhi Hum is 50,000. 10,000 connecting, visualizing on each chakra. We can start making a mini retreat. You make 1,000 for each chakra. It's a mini retreat, just to start one first experience. And then Pamle Pema, for example. Pamle Pema Jangu, first do with the mudra, and then after just go with the mala and do 1,000 for each chakra. If you do a longer retreat, then you do 10,000 for each chakra. And this is a way of actually going deeper into every aspect of the practice. Okay? Another way of doing a retreat is of concentrating the recitation in the mantras of the 5 Dhyani Buddhas. So just do the sadhana, normally, and then when reaching the part of Lama Dorcheken, Om Amoga Siddhi Hum, Om Amoga Siddhi Hum, Om Amoga Siddhi Hum, Om Amoga Siddhi Hum, and then do the mantras at that moment. Okay? There's the two ways how it's possible. One way is like doing the mantras and making the recitation, an accumulation of recitation at every part of the practice until the end of the practice. And the other way is just at the recitation of the mantras of the 5 Dhyani Buddhas. Okay? Both ways are fine. When we do the first way of reciting all the parts, it helps us to be more acquainted with the whole practice. Which is like, there are two names for retreat. One name is what we call Nyemba. Nyen means to be near to the deity, to be near to the practice. So this is what we call Nyemba care. So it's to be generate the, this Ke means to be born, to generate. Nyemba means to be nearby. So to have this of approximation, we call retreat of approximation also. So we get more near to the actual practice. Okay. So now, as we go to the next part of the practice, we have finished the first part in which we do the Guru Yoga. And before we start the actual part of the generation stage, we need to do the purifications. Okay? If we do in the short version of the purification, we do only the purification of the elements. Then after there's the absolute purification, but it's already entering into the generation stage. Because we can also do here the purification through Vajrasattva practice. There are the 7 practices of purification, on which the practice of purification of the elements is one of them. Okay? So if we take the book of Self-Healing number 2, inside of that there are all the different practices of purification. Okay? So there is inside of this, there is the astrological purification, there is like the mantra, inside of this there is a mantra like Black Manjushri, then there is the part of the purification through the 9-cycle breathing, and then there's the purification of the Vajrasattva and the purification of the elements and so on. So basically, the important thing here is that when we will do the actual practice, our intention is to generate our qualities, to develop our qualities to their maximum potential. But the qualities that we are talking here is in a deep level. You know? I don't care about generating a constructed mind positive. I care, but that's not my main objective. We need to transform our spontaneous mind. We need to transform the deepest aspects of ourselves. Okay? And one of the ways how we do that in the Vajrayana path, the Vajrayana path is called bringing the result into the path. So I need to be able to visualize myself, to imagine myself, to generate myself as the Buddha. Like, I have not yet reached that final result, but I will experience as if I had reached. I will imagine myself as if I had reached the final result of Buddhahood. Okay? But in order to generate ourselves truly as a Buddha, we need first to take away the identity that we have now. This gross identity of being, when we look to ourselves, maybe we look to ourselves and say, me as a Buddha, that's maybe even disrespectful towards the Buddha, To see myself as the Buddha. Look at me. I am selfish. I am full of fears. I am always suffering. I am ignorant. This and that, and this body doesn't fit for a Buddha. We can have different thoughts that because of our mundane identity, okay, or normal identity that we have. So, this is one way. Another point is also that when we generate ourselves as a Buddha, the one that is appearing as a Buddha is not this gross body. Because sometimes we may do a practice, I don't know, let's say I do self-generation as Tara. And then here I am and I visualize myself in the form of Green Tara. And then what happens is that if I simply visualize myself as Green Tara, and here is Lama Michel visualizing himself as Green Tara, but I still have my gross identity of me with all my defilements and all my problems and my very, let's say, impure identity, visualized as Tara, it's like putting a sort of a clothes, like how to say, going for carnival, no? And there I am, seeing myself as Tara. There is even the story of one practitioner that he did retreat on Yamantaka, but he never generated the correct motivation. He never had any understanding about emptiness. He just imagined himself with 9 heads, 34 arms, and 16 legs, in the most wrathful manner, and so on, as Yamantaka. So he just was imagining the appearance of Yamantaka, but was himself as Yamantaka. He never went beyond his own identity, and by meditating on emptiness and generating the motivation of love and compassion, never did all the rest. Was just there imagining himself as Yamantaka. And he said that later when he died, he was reborn as a spirit in the appearance as Yamantaka, because he developed a very strong attachment to the external appearance without actually going to the actual meaning of it. So, generally speaking, when we generate ourselves as the deity, the appearance of the visualization is not the most important thing. It's the actual identity that we generate in which say, I am pure. I am a Buddha. That's very important. But in order for me to generate the mind, I am a Buddha, first I need to eliminate the gross identity, I am an impure being, and so on. That's why we do first the purification. So first we go to the process of the purification in a more gross level. Then we go in a more subtle level. And as we go on the more subtle level, we should also do the part in which we stimulate our own process of death. Because in other words, for me to generate a more subtle identity, I need to die. I need to go beyond this name, beyond this body, beyond this life. Then I can really generate a very subtle body, the very subtle speech, and the very subtle mind. That's what I will generate in the form of the deity. And in the practice of self-healing, let's say the ultimate objective is to transform our mind in a very subtle level, not in a gross level. So in order to do that, we need to eliminate our gross identity, generate ourselves in a pure form, but from a subtle way. Not just, okay, here I am, and just imagine myself in a pure form, that's nice. If we do it of benefit, sure, but we are not going deep enough. That's why we do first the purification, to take away this gross identity that we have, and also to purify a little bit the parts of our mind of anger or jealousy or impure states of mind, in order to generate ourselves as the deity and to develop the qualities inside ourselves. Okay? So we will go now through the purification of the 5 elements, which is the most important purification that we do in the practice of self-healing. It's possible to add other purifications, as we have in the book of Self-Healing number 2. Okay? But we'll focus now on the one of the 5 elements. So, the purification of the 5 elements, it's extremely similar, not to say the same. It's then the way of doing it's a bit different. That's why I'd say it's similar. In most of the sadhanas, in the beginning of the sadhana, there is the purification of the inner offering. And then when we do the purification of the inner offering, that's the moment in which actually we transform the body and the mind. We purify the impurities of the body and the mind. Okay? In many sadhanas, such as Yamantaka, as Guya Samaja, or as Vajrayogini, and many others, the way how the inner offering is represented, it's quite difficult to understand its meaning. Okay? It's full of symbols and it's difficult way to get. In self-healing, it is shown in a very direct way. Okay? But it's still through symbols. So I'd like just to explain briefly, going beyond the symbols, so we can understand a little bit more what we are supposed to meditate inside. So I would just explain the 2 symbols, the one in self-healing and the one on the general inner offering. Okay? So we can see how actually it's 2 ways of representation, but we are going on the same direction. In the normal inner offering, the symbols, the metaphor, the symbol is there is a skull cup. Oh, okay, we go from under. We have a wind mandala, bow-shaped wind mandala. Then on top of the wind mandala, there is a fire triangular mandala. Then on the 3 edges of the fire triangular mandala, there are 3 human heads. One that was just cutted, red. The other one that was already a little bit old, more blue. And the other one that is completely dry and burned, which is white. Okay? Which represents actually the 3 wisdoms of realizing emptiness. Anyhow, on top of these 3 heads in the fire mandala, there is a skull cup, a head. And then white outside, red inside. And inside of this skull cup, there are the 5 nectars and the 5 meats. So we have the meat of a cow, the meat of dog, the meat of elephant, the meat of horse, and the human flesh. Okay? Then there are the 5 nectars inside. So normally the 5 meats we visualize, depending on the practice, but we visualize on the 4 directions and the center. Then in the intermediate directions and the center, we have the 5 nectars, which is urine, excrement, sperm, blood, and bone marrow. And then the wind blows, the fire grows, and it cooks inside of this skull cup the 5 nectars and the 5 meats. And then basically it becomes like a completely, above it there is the Om Ah Hum, then the Hum dissolves, the Ah dissolves, the Om dissolves, the Hum eliminates all the impurities, the Ah transforms into nectar, the Om multiplies. And then it becomes of a nectar of pure state of great bliss and emptiness. Okay? Now, in self-healing is a little bit more simple and less, I don't know what's the right word, but if we take it out of the context and we start imagining the inner offering, it's a bit strange. Huh? Like if you take the 5 nectars and the 5 meats. Okay, there is specific meaning for this. Anyhow, we don't go into this right now. But it's a bit funny. Not funny, like, I don't know how to say in English. In Portuguese say macabro. Macabre? Okay? Like, this 5 heads and the skull cup and the meat inside and all that. It's a bit strange, no? It's all symbology, actually, okay? In self-healing, how it is? We visualize wind, fire, earth, water, and then it transforms into nectar, and there is a rain of nectar. That's what we visualize. Okay, first there is space, then there is wind, fire, earth, water, and then nectar. Okay, what's the meaning of it? It's independently of the way how we may visualize it or not. When we say lung ye me bar, normally the wind blows and the fire grows. It's the same thing when we're doing self-healing. First we purify the wind, and then after we purify the fire. Basically, the wind blowing means the winds of energy absorbed inside the central channel from the navel chakra. Okay? So the winds that they come from the 2 foot, and then from the left and right nostril, from the 2 right and left channel, all the winds of our body, they absorb within our navel chakra. Okay, this is when we say the winds blow, when we purify the wind element. Then what happens is that by the winds entering through the navel chakra, it will make naturally the inner fire, the tomb of fire, to grow. As the tomb of fire grows, the heat goes up, 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 until it melts the white bodhicitta, the male energy that is in our crown. The tomb of fire represents the female energy. And as it goes up, it melts the male energy in our crown, and then the male energy of the white bodhicitta flows downwards, and we experience a deep sensation of bliss united with emptiness. Okay? So if we look in the first inner offering metaphor, what is happening is that the wind blows, the fire grows, it cooks the 5 meats and the 5 nectars that are inside the skull cup. What's the skull cup representing? The crown chakra. Okay? The 5 meats and the 5 nectars represent the 5 aggregates and the 5 elements, which means body and mind. Okay? So it is transformed into nectar, and then the nectar fills everything. Okay? So it's basically representing the inner process of the winds absorbing into the central channel, the inner fire growing, going up to the crown, dissolving the bodhicitta, and then filling the whole body, every little part of our body, with a sensation of bliss, and this bliss realizes emptiness. Okay? In self-healing, first we do purification of the space. The space is the basis for all other elements. Without space, the other elements cannot interact within themselves correctly. So first we purify space. Space has also special connection with emptiness, but now just think that space is the basis for all the other elements to be purified. So we purify space. Then we go wind. The wind blows, makes the fire to grow, that hits the earth, that hits the water evaporates, goes to the crown, transforms into nectar where it condenses, and then there is a rain of nectar going to the whole body, filling the whole body with a sensation of great bliss that realizes emptiness. Okay? So actually it's the same meaning. Okay? I just think the symbology fits a little bit better to our mentality, and it's more clear actually. Okay? This is the same symbology which was not invented by Rinpoche. This symbology, we find it in the self-initiation of Yamantaka. Inside the practice of the self-initiation of Yamantaka, or when we receive Yamantaka initiation, empowerment, there is exactly this same visualization. Okay? The only difference is that the space element is not cited directly. Okay? But it's there. So, basically, when we do this part of the practice of purification of the elements, what we are doing is we are purifying the body and the mind through an inner experience. Yeah? What we try to induce is the fact of our winds to absorb inside the central channel, to make the inner heat of the inner fire, which is also called the kundalini, to go up, to melt the bodhicitta that is in our crown, which is a substance, and then experience a sensation of great bliss to the whole body. Okay? I know few people that when doing retreats or in their practice, they had this experience without even knowing what was happening. Like it's something that is possible, it's not something that is only on visualization. People that went doing retreat, for example, one time one of our friends was doing retreat and suddenly had this sensation of heat coming up to the body. And the heat went to start up, and the heat going up. And suddenly it became a sensation of pleasure in the whole body, of bliss. And this person, when coming to me, she was a little bit even shy of saying. And she said, it's a little bit shy person. She said, oh, it was like an orgasm that never ended. It was like something, and she will say, I couldn't move my body, any part of the body, because the sensation of pleasure was so great. And it was in every little part of the body, in every finger, in every part of the body. And there was not even the wish, like, not even to move any little part of the body to remain in that state. Okay? This is what we call experiencing bliss. And this happens when the energy winds absorb into the central channel, the fire goes up, and then it melts the bodhicitta, and we experience the sensation of great bliss. Okay? So, bliss by itself, it's important, but it's not the answer. Bliss must go together with emptiness, which means this bliss must realize the lack of inherent existence, because bliss itself, it's a deep state of non-conceptual mind. Okay? In the moment where we experience great joy, when we experience pleasure, when we experience bliss, the conceptual mind is not functioning anymore at that moment. Okay? Maybe there is even some medical, scientific explanation why when we are in the moment of orgasm or great bliss, the conceptual mind is not functioning anymore really the right way. Maybe there is something connected with the brain, whatever explanation, sure something there. The fact, according to Tibetan Buddhism, is that the winds absorb into the central channel, so they don't have any more connection to our five senses and the conceptual part of the mind. Okay? So basically, it is a deep state of consciousness. But it must be directed to realize the lack of inherent existence, to realize emptiness. Otherwise, it's just bliss by itself. It's not making much effect. Okay? That's why first we need to meditate on emptiness, then we need to go to bliss, so that it follows the path of perceiving emptiness. Okay? But we are in the very beginning of the practice. This is something that we will do with more focus on the end of self-healing. But because it's so important, in the very beginning we already do it again and again. We repeat this part of generating the union of great bliss and emptiness. Just trying to make it clear. Why actually do we meditate on the union of great bliss and emptiness? Because the main cause of our suffering is selfishness. Selfishness is coming from ignorance. Ignorance of grasping at inherent existence. Phenomena, reality, appear to us as being objective, as being self-existent, as being solid. And we believe in it. That's our ignorance. The only way to eliminate such ignorance is by generating a mind that has a direct opposite mode of apprehension. So the mind that grasps at inherent existence, to be eliminated, needs the mind that realizes the lack of inherent existence. Okay? Because when the mind understands and realizes that nothing exists inherently, the mind that grasps that inherent existence cannot be there at that moment. Okay? The difficulty is that our ignorance exists in a gross, in a subtle, and in a very subtle level. So when intellectually we understand the lack of inherent existence and we meditate on that, we generate that understanding, we are blocking the ignorance in a gross level, conceptual level. In order to eliminate ignorance in a subtle level and in a very subtle level, we need to generate the mind of wisdom that realizes the lack of inherent existence in a subtle level and in a very subtle level. So, we use bliss to to bring the mind to a very subtle level. And in that subtle level, we will realize the lack of inherent existence in order to eliminate ignorance in its more subtle form. Okay, is this more or less clear? Okay, so this is the process to why we do it in this way. And this is a very special thing of the Vajrayana path. Because in the Vajrayana path, we use the body to induce our minds to more subtle levels of consciousness. That's one of the main points of the Vajrayana. Why? Because the gross mind is just conceptual, and when we die, it's ended, and then it comes back again. So if we are able conceptually to understand the lack of inherent existence, that's wonderful. But then what happens is that when we die, we lose it, and then next life we need to start again, not from zero, because we have some good imprints, but almost. If we are able to have a deeper level of experience, of wisdom in our subtle mind, it's already more stable in our mind. And once we realize it with a very subtle mind, then we take it from life to life with experience. So one of the objectives in the Vajrayana path is to induce ourselves through the body to a subtle level of consciousness, to the very subtle level of consciousness, and induce ourselves to that subtle and very subtle level of consciousness with the mind that realizes wisdom, with the mind that realizes the lack of inherent existence. Because basically, the bad news, let's say, is that if we enter into a deeper state of consciousness, for example, through bliss, and we are doing that with the mind of attachment, we are just making the imprints of attachment bigger in our mind. Because the last gross thought, the last gross mind that we have, when the mind absorbs from a gross to a subtle level, is the one that is directed, is the direction that the subtle and the very subtle mind takes. It's the same thing as when we die. Okay? So if I have if I enter into a deeper level of consciousness with the mind of love, I get more familiarized with love in a deeper level. If I enter into a deeper level of consciousness with generosity, I familiarize myself in a deeper level with generosity. If I enter into a deeper level of consciousness with wisdom, I get familiarized in a deeper way with wisdom. But if I do this with aversion, if I do this with attachment, if I do this with desire, and so on, I will familiarize myself with that. Okay? So, that's why actually the state of bliss that can happen through the physical process of orgasm itself, if it's done how most of the time I think happens, that is through attachment, it just becomes more and more attachment, more and more attachment. So it's just like grasping more and more. So it's like getting more and more deep into samsara. Instead, if we use the fact of bringing the mind to a deeper level of consciousness with love, it's more easy. Then after that we can slowly do with generosity, and it's also more easy. And finally with wisdom, then this means bringing the mind of wisdom to a deeper and deeper level. So this is what in the Vajrayana path, and in every sadhana, there is this objective, and the self-healing is very clear, to bring ourselves to a deeper level of consciousness with the mind that realizes the lack of inherent existence. That's the objective. Okay? So, basically, at the very beginning of the practice, we are already doing that. We're already training on that. And this is the main objective of the practice as we go on after the completion stage. Okay? Tomorrow we will see this more clearly. I think tomorrow we will look at that. So, I know it's some subject that is a little bit complicated for some people and little deep, quite deep actually, not little. But I think it's important to talk about the most difficult and more deep aspects in order for us to get more and more familiarized with it. We don't need to go directly to the point. It's useless just to stay around. No? So when we talk about the purification of the elements, the goal of the purification of the elements is bringing our mind to the union of great bliss and emptiness in order to purify our mind and our body in a deeper level. We talk about purifying the body because the state of bliss naturally purifies the subtle body. When we enter a state of great bliss, it's like this person was telling, when she experienced this state of bliss, the sensation is in every part of the body. And for example, this person, she experienced this through meditation. It was not through any physical process, but it happens physically. And the sensation is like of every part of the body, because actually what happens is that the bliss enters into the whole nervous system. So in every part of the body where the nervous system goes, it's like if there is electricity going through the whole body in a sensation of great bliss. And it actually says that it is very good to clean the nervous system. It's like making a purification and cleaning our own nervous system. This inner sensation of great bliss. So the stronger is the bliss, the more it goes through the whole body, the more it purifies our subtle body with them into subtle channels. Okay? So that's why also it's talking about the purification of the body. And there is another aspect also, which is the 5 elements are the basis of our body. Nothing exists independently of the 5 elements. So it's very important also to be in harmony with the elements itself. Okay? So, as we go through the purification, one important thing of our visualization is that when we look at the sadhana, we are here in page number 6. Okay? And you can see here there is a little drawing with the symbols representing the 5 elements. So at the crown chakra we have a blue sphere. It's like a circle, it's like a sphere, a blue sphere that vibrates with the sound E. Inside we have the 6 syllables in Tibetan. Okay? A 6 syllable is like sound. Sound is vibration, vibration is energy. So actually more than visualizing the actual Tibetan letter, syllable written, it's more important to visualize the vibration of the sound, because that's what it's actually representing. Again, the syllables represent sound. So it's not that important to visualize the actual Tibetan letter. If it was like this, then we can also visualize E-H, A. And someone may say, no, it must be the Tibetan. Then we must do the Sanskrit, because that's what it's originally coming from. But the important thing is that it's not the actual letter what is the important thing to visualize. It's the sound, the vibration of the sound. So we have the blue sphere of space that vibrates with the sound of E in the crown, which is like infinite space that vibrates, that resonates the sound of E. Actually, the precise sound is A. It's A with a little I afterwards. It's A. Okay? Whenever in Tibetan we have the double drempo, it makes the sound of A. It's A with a little I in the end. A. Okay? That's a more precise way of saying the sound. A. Yam, at the secret chakra we have the wind. So we don't need to I think many people when visualizing, they do some copy-paste, like they cut the little drawings on the booklet and they stick on their chakra, with the visualization. So we visualize like putting this in our own body. So you take like a red triangle. So imagine a little red triangle, very graphic on the navel. No. That's not the way of doing it, according to my own view. The way of doing it, we don't visualize the red, the half bow-shaped, half-circle green. We visualize the actual wind blowing from our foot, from the sole of our feet, where we have the, how to call, calcanhar, how to call that in English? Hoof. In English is the heel. The heel? Okay. Yeah? Because the heel, if we cut, is bow-shaped. It's a half circle. So, but we visualize at the sole of our feet, basically, the wind starting from there. So the winds blow up from our legs, and the wind joint at our secret chakra, which is by itself a bow shape. When we are seated on the lotus position, we have a bow shape already, naturally. Okay? So when we say the bow-shaped wind mandala, it's the natural shape of the body. Okay? At this lower part when we are sitting. So imagine the wind moving, and it moves with the sound of yam. And it's green in color. Okay? It moves with the sound of yam, and it's green in color as it moves up. Okay? So we don't visualize just a little drawing green in color with wind. We visualize the actual wind moving within our secret chakra, and all our subtle winds, everything going down. Normally, when our winds are impure, they are not balanced. They are not flowing in a nice way. Like, imagine a wind going in many directions and not coherent, not stable. So we visualize all the winds getting very stable and very peaceful. And all the winds of the body, they focus on our secret chakra. So imagine all the winds going together in our secret chakra and entering into the central channel. Okay? From the left and the right nostril, from all the different parts, from the lower part of our body. It's basically from all the nervous system, all the energies gathering there and entering the central channel from 3 fingers below the navel. So imagine the wind truly being purified. Then as the wind focuses on our navel, as it goes up from the secret chakra and it focuses on our navel, then we visualize the fire that grows. And we visualize, if we see, like in the navel area, is like an actual triangular fire, we visualize. Okay. So inside our body is like a whole fire going up, starting 3 fingers below our navel. So we visualize actual red fire that vibrates with the sound of Ram. So the fire grows up. In the beginning, the fire is not strong, and the fire is a little bit like, because the wind is not stable, the fire is also not stable and weak. And then when the wind focuses all there, then the fire gets very strong and very stable. So imagine the fire. When you say we purify the fire gets stable, and then the fire goes up with the sound of Ram. As it reaches our chest, our heart chakra, the heart chakra is square. So we visualize the square, like cube, yellow earth. So it heats the earth, that is yellow. And then as the heat goes up, it's like one layer after the other. The heat starts to go up, 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 up. It purifies any impurity of the earth. When it reaches the throat chakra, there is the water. And we visualize actual water. It's like if there's like a sort of a pond on the earth. So there is the actual water which is in touch with the earth element below. And the water starts to get heated also. And then the heat of water gets higher and higher and higher, up to a moment where it's completely pure and it starts to evaporate. But we don't imagine the whole water evaporates. The water continues there, but it starts to evaporate and it goes up to the crown. And then when the, how do you call it in English? No, not the vapor, the steam, goes and reaches the crown chakra, it touches at the crown, and then it condenses and transforms into nectar. And then this nectar starts going to the whole body and filling each and every part of the body. Every little part of our body is filled with nectar. Okay? So it goes from the central channel, and then it goes from every chakra, entering into all the different ramifications of our nervous system, of our channels, and it goes to the whole body, completely filled with the sensation of bliss. So this is what we visualize. Okay? I think it's quite clear, no? And just one thing before, when we do the E, the purification of space, there are 2 meanings of this. One is that there is the element space. The element space, it means actually the space that is between the elements. If there was no element space, all the other elements will be just one. Okay? Like even everything, you know. If there was no space between things, everything would be just one. Like one very, 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 very dense, infinitively dense atom. Everything together. No? This is what would happen if there was no space between. Right? So in order for all the elements to exist and to interact, they need space in between. This space in between is called the space element. Okay? Another type of space is what we call Tore Kaktam Gimega, which means the simple non-existence of obstructive contact. The simple non-existence of obstructive contact, which is permanent, which basically means that for anything to exist, there must be no obstruction for it to exist. If there is obstruction, it cannot exist. Okay? And this is extremely connected with emptiness. What is the obstruction that should not exist in order for something to be there? Like inherent existence. So when we do the purification of space, it also means the part where we meditate on the lack of inherent existence. And then this is the basis after, when we experience great bliss, to have the great bliss united with emptiness. Okay? Because otherwise we just generate bliss, and where is the emptiness coming from? Okay? In order to unite great bliss and emptiness, first we need to bring our mind from a gross level to the state of realizing the lack of inherent existence, to emptiness, and then we remain the mind in that state. So when we visualize the wind appears as wind, but it is in the nature of being empty of inherent existence. The fire appears as fire, and it comes with the sound of Ram, but it lacks inherent existence. The earth has the sound of Lam, and is yellow, but it lacks inherent existence. The water has the sound of Bam, and is white in color, and is empty of inherent existence. And the nectar that appears, it's a great sensation of bliss that appears as nectar, and it lacks inherent existence. Okay? So, we start from the beginning of meditating on emptiness, from the very moment where we do the purification of the space. Okay? And then we keep that awareness, that mode of apprehension, or that everything lacks inherent existence. It's like, let's say we look to the wall, okay? And we look at one brick, and we start analyzing that brick. And we say, okay, what is the brick made of? Okay, the brick is originally made with earth. Okay, it's made with earth, and then it was heated and cooked and so on, and then it became the brick. But it's actually, the main substance is made with earth. Okay? Then, once we truly understand well how one brick is, then we start looking at all the other bricks. They have different sizes, different shapes, different colors, but they're all made of earth. The mode of apprehension is we perceive the actual material with the brick was made. Okay? The appearance is different, but we are always connected to the material. Similar to that, we first meditate on emptiness of one thing. Then everything that we see, it appears differently, but what's the mode of apprehension? It lacks inherent existence. So appears the wind that lacks inherent existence, appears the fire that lacks inherent existence, appears the earth that lacks inherent existence, the water that lacks inherent existence, the nectar and the bliss that also lacks inherent existence. And by that we enter into the state of bliss that realizes the lack of inherent existence of itself. That's the union of great bliss and emptiness. Okay? So, in order to do that, we need to start from the beginning generating the state of emptiness, mode of apprehension of emptiness. Otherwise, when we get bliss, and then now how I do with emptiness, it's not possible at that point. That's why we need to meditate before. Okay? The same thing is when we meditate on the process of death. We start first meditate on emptiness. Then we go to the whole process of dissolution of the elements. And they appears as the earth dissolving into water and so on. But it's always empty of inherent existence. We need to keep that mode of apprehension in the whole process until we go to clear light. Okay? And we start training on that also here. So when we do the purification of space, from my understanding, it has two meanings. One is the actual element space, which is very important. And the other is space as a basis for understanding emptiness. Okay? One of the reasons why the element space is mostly not explained, and it's hidden, it's quite secret, is because there is a danger of making a confusion between space as a basis to understand emptiness, which is a permanent form of space, and space as the element space that is impermanent. Okay, there are two different things. The space as the basis for realizing emptiness is present in everything that exists. There is no material without space. It's the lack of obstruction for its existence. If the bell is in my hand, it's because there is no obstruction for the bell to be in my hand. This means there is space. If you can listen to the sound, it means there is no obstruction for the sounds to reach your ears. It means there is space for the sound to flow. Okay? But space is never empty. It's always full with something. Okay? Try to find one empty space. There's always something. There is light, there is sound, there is air, there is something in space, always. Okay? So what happened is that, similar to that, space is a negation. It's the lack of obstruction. Similar to that, in reality, emptiness is a negation. Emptiness is the lack of inherent existence, which is an obstruction. Nothing could exist if it was of inherent existence. Okay? So basically it's an obstruction. So space is the lack of that obstruction. But wherever there is space, there is materia. Similar to that, wherever there is emptiness, there is existence. There is interdependence. Okay? Like relative reality and absolute reality, they are all together. Wherever there is absolute reality, there is relative reality also. So, by meditating on space, we bring our mind into the realization of emptiness. And we keep that realization that everything lacks inherent existence. Oh, everything that appears to me appears in different forms, but actually everything lacks one's own objective, independent existence, inherent existence. Okay? So this is basically what we are supposed to meditate when we do Eo Shuddha Shuddha Soha also. Okay? Sure, it comes out of more practice. So the more we meditate on emptiness, the more we know when we think about space and we create the connection with space, it brings our mind back to it. So there are two meanings here. One is we purify space, generally speaking, as an element, which is between the elements. There is some sort of empty space, which is a part where the element is not present. There's something in between them. Now, element space is one of the most difficult elements to describe. Because you cannot say there is nothing, because there is space. Space is something. But what is it? Is a space. It's nothing. It's quite difficult. Okay? So, we could even try to find a definition of space. Because when we look between us, is there space between us? Yes. Is it empty or is it full? Full of air and so on, which means there is no space actually. Okay? If we look, if the idea of space means emptiness, there's nothing. Okay? So one way we could say that space between two objects, it means different objects between them that do not create an obstruction for one object to interact with the other. Okay? When we say there is space between us, means there is actually no obstruction for us to interact. And physically speaking, there is something in between, but that actually is not an obstruction for our interaction. Okay? So this we could say the element space, but it's a very subtle element. It's quite difficult to really grab at it. Okay? Fire, water, earth, wind is more easy. Okay? Even though understanding the subtle form of these elements is not so simple. But space is even more subtle. But anyhow, without space, the others would not exist. And just one thing, just to say, Gangchen Rinpoche, in the self-healing practice, Rinpoche put in a very open and direct way the existence of the space element. And if we look in most of the sadhanas, we will never find the space element. It's never there. Actually, it is there, but it's not there. Like if we look in Guya Samaja practice, it is not talking, there is the mothers of the elements, and then there is also Dorje Ingi Wangchuma, which means Vajra Dhatu Shvari. Vajra Dhatu means Vajra space, actually. So the mother of Vajra space. So it is there, but it's a little bit hidden. And if we look in the root tantra of Guya Samaja, in the very beginning of the root tantra, maybe if you like, I can even read it at some point, it is making the praise to all the different aspects which actually after are manifested as deities. So it's citing like the 5 aggregates, and then the different parts of our subtle body which are represented like Manjushri or all the other deities of the body mandala, okay, like the limbs and the channels and so on. And when talking about the elements, it's very, very clear, stating the 5 elements including space. So it's quite strange because in the beginning of the root tantra, it cites space very openly, very clearly. Then after, when talking about the deities, space is forgotten. There is no space anymore. So one time I asked my teacher in Tibet, the abbot of Tashilumpo, Kajin Losam Prinsuk, I asked him, why is it like this? No? And I said, Rinpoche always talks about space mother and space element also because as the mothers are the pure embodiment of the element in its pure form, and we have 5 elements, there should be a 5th mother, no? And then we have the element space, which is the mother of space, and like this I explained to him, and he said, if we follow logics, it's perfectly correct. If we follow scripture, it's difficult to answer. Because he said, I don't find any direct reference not only to the 5 elements in this way. But if we look, there are references, which is also like of element space, there are many references. In the Guya Samaja Tantra is very clear. Mother of space, there are references, but it's a little bit hidden somehow. And I asked him why for that, and he told me, he said, I believe the reason why the space element normally is being kept hidden is because not to make confusion between the space element and the space as a permanent phenomenon. And space as a permanent phenomena is one of the bases to help to realize emptiness. And that's more important than understanding the space element that is impermanent. Okay? So not to make confusion between the two that are very similar and somehow, okay, the space element is kept hidden. Okay? So Rinpoche made it open for us, so we need to make it clear there is a space element which is impermanent, which is like between us as we walk to each other, the space changes. No? So basically, we could say that space in this way is the lack of obstruction. It's like other objects that exist between us, but that do not constitute an obstruction for our interaction. This we could say that is a space. Because the space is not nothingness. Okay? So if we look for a definition of space element, it's objects that exist between two, but space always must be between 2 parts. Okay? So between two objects, two parts, there are other objects that do not constitute an obstruction for the interaction of the two parts. This means space element. When we talk about space, generally speaking, which is permanent, which is not a space element, is the simple known existence of obstruction. Tibetan is called Tore Kaksam Gimega. Okay? Can we see the difference between the two? Okay? So it's just important to make clear the existence of the two. Okay? So, I would say we can do now the part of the purification of the elements. We just do the recitation together. Okay? Please. Yes. Yes. Okay. Okay. When we talk about the elements, there are different levels of existence and understanding of the elements and relation of the elements. We have the elements in a more, let's say we have the element earth, water, fire, and so on. For example, when we talk in a more gross level, the wind element in our body is the energy movement of our body, the subtle winds. And it's actually what is making, our own blood pressure and the fact of our own lymphatic system working and the movement that is creating in the body. All this is based on the wind element of the body. Then we have the fire element, which is all our inner heat. The earth element is the solid part of the body, of the bones, and so on. Then we have the water element, is all the liquids in the body. Okay, this is the elements in a more gross level. Okay. Then we have the elements in a subtle level. The elements in a subtle levels are the winds, nature, earth, the wind, nature, water, the wind, nature, fire, and so on. Which we have in our body 5 main winds. Okay, winds is like, in Sanskrit it's called prana. Prana is translated very often as energy. But basically it's the energy that flows within the nervous system. And we have 5 main types of energy that flows within the nervous system, which is called how to call Hingyurgilung. Then we have what's the name of? Ascending wind, descending wind, the all-pervasive wind, the wind like fire, and the life-sustaining wind, Soksin. Okay? These are the 5 winds. Each one of the winds are related to one of the 5 elements. Okay? So we have wind, nature, wind, wind, nature, fire, wind, nature, earth, wind, nature, water, wind, nature, space. The reason why the order is different is because when we do the generally purification of the elements in self-healing, we are basing ourselves in a more gross, still subtle, but more gross form of the elements in order to induce our body to this experience of great bliss. So we have actually making the winds to absorb in the central channel, then there's the fire in the navel that is growing, and then there is the earth that is the heat going up and up until the water gets heat, and then we generate bliss. Okay? In the practice of the 5 mothers, we are purifying and relating to the elements in its subtle form, which is the first subtle winds. And the main place of these winds in the body are different. So the wind, nature, earth remains basically in the sacral chakra. The wind, nature, wind is mainly in the navel chakra. The wind, nature, water is in the heart. The wind, nature, fire is in the throat. The wind, nature, space is in the crown. That's why we have different orders for the elements. Okay? One interesting thing also about the wind and the elements, let me try to put in a simple way. Our mind is also influenced by the cycles of energy of our body. Okay? And we have in one day, How many cycles? Let me try to remember. We can count together. I don't remember right now, but if we make the count, we can remember. Because we have in one day 21,900. I think it's 21,000 breaths a day. Okay? There's 21,000 lung nitri chikriya, 21,000 breaths a day, which is cycles of energy every day. Okay? Each one of these breaths is actually, they start cycles. Okay? Every cycle is made of 900 breaths. And every cycle, it starts with, one complete cycle is 900 breaths. One non-complete cycle is 225 breaths. Basically, what happens is that we have one cycle where it's mainly the wind. Then we have another cycle which is mainly the wind-fire. Then there's another fire cycle which is mainly the wind-earth. Then there's another cycle which is mainly the wind-water. Then one mainly the wind-space. And they change into this. Okay? So one interesting thing is that 1 hour is the time necessary for one complete cycle of the 5 elements in our body. Okay? So normally, like, there is a direct relation with the state of mind and which is the main cycle that we are experiencing. If it's of the element earth or water and fire and so on. Great yogis, they could understand this by actually observing with the finger below the nose, by seeing how strong is coming the air from each one of the nostrils. It's possible to understand at what cycle of energy we are in at that moment. Okay? And we should start the practice on the right cycle of energy. Okay? And this has a direct influence to our mind. One interesting thing is that the external cycles of energy of the elements, which is the planets and the constellations and so on, also has an influence to our internal cycle of energy. So the more simple way to understand which is our internal cycle of energy is observing what is the external cycle of energy. Normally, we observe the external cycle of energy by checking mostly the element of the lunar mansion and the element of the solar day, normally. And this is like when you have the Tibetan calendar and the almanac, there is always the element of the day. Why the element of the day is important? Because according to the external element, it influences also our internal element. And this influences our behavior, influences our mind. Okay, so external elements and internal elements are connected. Okay, so that's why, for example, when starting a retreat on Tarachtamani, for instance, the best way would be to start it on springtime, now, more or less. And it should be done on the 8th day of the lunar calendar. And when both elements is fire. Okay? So this is one of the ways which is good or to start this retreat of Tarachtamani. So it depends basically on when we are more sensitive, we can perceive better the influences from the external elements and the interaction that it has with our internal elements and the interaction that it has with our mind also. So normally, when we become more sensitive, we can use this in order to transform our mind in the right direction. So, going back to the question, when we do the practice of the 5 mothers, we are relating basically to the elements in a subtle form, not in a more gross form. In self-healing, we are relating to elements in a more gross level, which is still in our subtle body, but in a more gross level. Okay? So, actually dealing with the elements is very important, especially when we go after to the completion stage and so on, where we need to learn how to direct better our winds and so on, and this part of the elements become very important also. Okay? So the purification of the elements is in the very beginning of the practice, but it's actually important through the whole practice. And later, when we go to deeper meditations on the completion stage, again, the meditation of the elements become even more important. Okay? Because the ability to direct our energy and to control our subtle energy is directly connected with the ability to control our subtle elements and to pacify the conflicts that are within our elements. Okay? So, actually, if we would only practice the purification of the elements, it's a quite complete practice by itself. And if we don't have the time, or if we want to put more emphasis, it is possible just to do the part of Guru Yoga, Oma Guru Buddha Siddhi Hum, and then do the part of the purification of the elements, and finish. Then do dedication. It's also possible. Okay? And if when we do retreat on that, we stay for a longer time meditating on the purification of the elements. Okay? Now, we will do the practice with more calm after lunch. Otherwise, now we need to hurry up because it's time for lunch. But when we eat, we do the same visualization as when we do the purification of the elements. Okay? I will transcribe this prayer that Rinpoche transmitted to us a few times when it's saying this visualization. But basically, when we eat, we visualize that we take the food, and then the wind goes into the central channel. It makes the fire of the tumor fire to grow. That is the digestive fire. The digestive fire will purify the food and make the division between the good part and the bad part of the food. And then the good part we offer to all the Buddhas, especially at Guru Buddha at our heart, and to all the other Buddhas. And the remaining of this we offer to all the sentient beings living in our body. You know, even according to modern medicine, there are more beings living in our body than human beings in this planet. No? Much, much more, actually. And according to Buddhism, it's very, very important to be in harmony with the beings living in our body. The state of health has much to do with the state of harmony that we have with the beings living in our body. Or, in other words, with the beings that compose our body somehow. You know? I remember there is a recording of the first speech that Rinpoche gave in Brazil on a public speech. And in this public speech was in 1989. He was talking about the importance of having harmony with the subtle beings in our body, with the bacteria and so on. Okay? So, it is actually something very, very important also for our health. So when we eat, we imagine that the first part of the food we offer to all the holy beings and the Guru Buddha in our heart, and then the remaining part of all the good part of the food, it goes to all the other forms of life in our body, and we make an offering to them. And they all become happy and satisfied. Okay? Like we are nourishing them, because that's actually what we do, no? When we eat, we are nourishing all the bacteria and all the forms of life that exist in our body, or not? Yes. So we do this with awareness, and this becomes an act of generosity. Okay? So we practice generosity when eating. And we offer. So we do this when we eat, okay? And the process is the same. Just like Eya Alambam, we visualize the wind blowing, the fire growing, it transforms the food, it transforms into nectar, and then this nectar goes to the whole body, offering to all the holy beings and all the sentient beings that are in our body. Like if we do the practice of Guya Samaja, we have the 5 Dhyani Buddhas, the 5 mothers, all the protectors and the bodhisattvas and everything in the whole of our body. So this nectar goes to the whole body and makes an offering to each one of the deities in our body, the holy beings, and then to all the sentient beings of the body also. Okay? If we do more simple, we just make the offering to Guru Buddha in our heart. And then the remaining, we imagine this nectar that flows to the whole body and goes to every sentient being in our body, and they become fully satisfied with this. With this, we create also a positive interdependence with these beings living in our body, which is also very important. Okay? So, another thing also is when we eat, on the plate of food, we can visualize the whole process of the inner offering or the purification of the elements. It's the same thing. We visualize the wind blowing, the fire growing, transforming, and this will transform into nectar of the food. And we can visualize on top Om Ahom, light emanating, reabsorbing the white, red, and blue light into the food. Then the Hum, the souls, eliminate any impurities. The Ah, the souls, transform into nectar. The Om, the souls, multiply the food. And it becomes blessed with the blessings of body, speech, and mind of all Buddhas. Then we eat it. So I will transcribe the recording I have of Rinpoche giving the transmission, and after we can give this transmission also here. Okay? Omo ahung, omo ahung, omo ahung. Shambala me Sangye Rinpoche, Kyobala me Tamche Rinpoche, Rimbala me Gindu Rinpoche, Kyamne Kuncho Sumla Chepa, Locho Sambo Pagyu Trashi Pa, Tuche Tempe Trinle, Pege Drolo Zambe Zebrache, Pande Lame Shela Chepa, Kanshi Drimba Samge Chinange, Parchetun Seleshi Tinenam, Sotse Gyache Shugne Ringa Setensum Kordan Chela Chepa. Kenam Churchin Sowa Tabetu, Daso Kanto Nebe Sacho Ter, Nedan Ubo Tabso Shivadan Chedan Tashi Pelwar Zedu.